So my name is Denise Steph. I'm the finance director for Murray City. And I've been the finance director for about 18 months here in Murray. I came from another city for about a decade, and from Utah Transit Authority for about 5 years. So it's a pleasure to work for Murray, and I'm hopeful that tonight the information that we have to present to you will be informative and help you as you have questions about this change. So we thank you for being here. As we prepared the budget this year with the council, the one thing that we did do is we met with the council and we asked them to prioritize some things that they wanted to make sure were included in the budget. And we're going to go over the 3 priorities that they gave to us as we prepared the budget back in January. So our budget cycle, or our budget year, runs from July 1st through June 30th, so we just started this budget year. And we meet in January, and we just ask them, tell us what you believe that your constituents, what matters most. And so we believe that these are those things that matter most. The first thing that the council prioritized was public safety. As you heard back in January, the news started picking up on stories that things were changing in public safety. Salt Lake City made the first move in announcing that they were going to hire 50 new officers as of this July 1st. They were going to increase their property taxes to do so, because they needed more public safety within their community. The next thing you heard in March was that Harriman was going to be leaving Unified Police, and that they were going to be starting their own department. Soon you heard Riverton and Mill Creek had also de-annexed from UPD and are looking at starting their own departments. There's been lots of cities and counties looking at public safety, making sure that their wages are competitive. About March, we were looking at the industry, and we knew that there were about 600 available public safety positions within the state that were open and were looking for officers. And they began recruiting our officers. What we know is that we invest a lot to recruit and train our current officers. It costs between $40,000 and $60,000 to do 3 years of training. So what happens is you get a new officer out of post, and then within 3 to 5 years, they get another offer from another city, and they take our entire investment, and then we have to start all over again. We know that we reduce our risk when we have an experienced public safety workforce, and we think that that's important. We also know that we had an increased challenge as Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County began cleaning out the Rio Grande area with Operation Rio Grande. And we know that we have 2 track stations within our community, and that much of that population came south, and so we've been dealing with that as well. As we looked at public safety, we knew that our officers were going to be recruited, and so we took a look at the compensation that we had. We also knew that we had one issue, and that was that all other departments, fire and police, throughout the state carry what they call a STEP plan for their public safety officers. We did not have a STEP plan. Our officers and firefighters all got the same raises that regular city employees received, and they had no career path. However, officers are a little different in their career, in that, similar to the military, they all can't be officers. They all can't be captains and sergeants and police chiefs and fire chiefs someday. They all may just be, not just, but a paramedic or a police officer for their entire career of 12 to 15 to 30 years. And so they need to know that as they begin their career at a low wage, less than about $40,000 a year now, but it was at $35,000 a year last year, that they didn't know what they were going to be getting moving forward. And so it was very difficult for them to support their families, and many of them had second and third jobs in order to supplement their incomes. We felt like it was important in our community to keep those officers here. And so we did a compensation study, which I headed up last year. We took all of the communities that were A, recruiting our officers, and B, within Salt Lake County and Utah County. We took the average STEP plans for their departments, and we adopted the average range for our departments. So we now have implemented a STEP plan for our firefighters and our police officers that will allow them to stay within Murray. They want to stay here. They want to work in this community. It's the best place to work. But they also needed to be paid competitively so that they could stay here, so that they could support their families as well. So implementing that plan, there was a total increase to the budget of $2.3 million. It's important to know that 2 out of every 5 employees from Murray City are in public safety. It's a large portion of our employee base. And it increased our budget about 8% for public safety alone. The second priority was maintenance, taking care of the things that we have. So that's vehicles and equipment like fire trucks and police cars, snow plows, and large mowers for our parks. Our road maintenance, parks maintenance, facilities maintenance, and studies like master plans for our parks and communities, or master plans for our roads, or other things like that. There was a total increase to the budget for this for $650,000. Now, why this increase now is because during an economic downturn, which occurred in 2008, the city kind of had to step back from maintenance. They had to pull back from vehicle replacement. They had to pull back from maintaining some of the roads at the same level that they had been doing in the past. But you can only do that for so long, and it's been a decade since 2008. And so it was time for the city to bring that plan back into place so that we make sure that we take care of the things that we do have and replace them on a useful life that is responsible for the community. The third thing was improvements or additions or changes to our community. This year in the budget, the one improvement that we needed to make was for Fire Station 81, which many of you know is on 4800 South. There's a project, or there's an intergovernmental community, or council that's called the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and they have a master plan, and it covers all of the Wasatch Front. It kind of coordinates some of the state funding for our transportation. They have a project on their list that's funded right now called the Hanover Road Connection Project. It's intended to bring some of the traffic off of State Street and divert it over onto Main Street, and Hanover would connect Main Street so that it would continue south. Problem with that project and it being funded is that project runs smack through our fire station. Now, our fire station is currently over 30 years old. Our fire chief has informed me it's 39 years old, so almost 40 years old, and it was in need of further investment. In essence, we probably would have knocked it down and had to start all over. So we'll be moving it out of the way of the project. We'll be moving it a little further west onto Box Elder. And we will be rebuilding that. We issued debt last year because we knew that we wanted to be ahead of some of the interest rate changes that are changing now in the amount of $5.8 million for the construction of that fire station. The annual debt service on that fire station is $480,000 because we took a short-term bond on it. So we'll be paying it off within less than 12 years. In addition to adding the compensation plan for the officers, included in that $2.3 million was the addition of additional personnel. We added a police officer. We had a request from AISU, the charter school, to add a school resource officer to their school. We believed that that was a fair and equitable request, and we wanted to honor that. Now, what do school resource officers do during the summer? We actually put them in bikes, and so many of you see them throughout the community in your parks or on your trails, and in some of that area, maybe on the Jordan River, where we may have some challenges. So that officer is on their bike this summer, and then will be a school resource officer for AISU during the school year. We also added 2 crossing guards, which will be serving Riverview Junior High. We added an office administrator. Now, not a whole person, we added half of a person. We changed the position from part-time to full-time to support the fire department. They currently only work with 1 office administrator that supports over 71 full-time employees. And we added a battalion chief for emergency management throughout the city, as well as the training needs of the fire department. We also added 4 other positions outside of public safety. One was a GIS analyst that assists with snow plowing in the streets department, a maintenance worker for parks, a risk analyst for our risk department, and a facilities supervisor. Many of you may know that we added quite a few facilities as we've been trying to make sure that we keep up with our historical preservation. So owning things like City Hall that requires a lot of maintenance, the theater, the Murray Theater, the Murray Mansion, the chapel, those kinds of facilities all require some maintenance. And so that facility supervisor will be over those facilities. Now here was the challenge. So when I first came to Murray, typically I go back and do a 10-year history and kind of get my bearings as to where the city's sitting. And what I found was this orange line is expenditures for Murray. And I was a little concerned as we put this chart together that the blue line is the revenues. So you can see in 2006 is the last time the city increased property taxes. They did so because they knew that they were having some challenges keeping up with expenditures and inflation. However, they did that not knowing, of course, that 2008 was going to occur. So things looked really good in 2006 and 2007, right probably where the city needed to be. And then the economy changed tremendously. When the economy dipped, the lion's share of what Murray City receives in sales tax, which is the majority of our revenue, is dependent on car sales, recreation vehicles, boat sales, those kinds of things. Over 35% of our sales tax revenue. And so when the economy changes, those sales step back. None of you went out and bought a car or a boat during that time. We were all just kind of trying to figure out what was going to go on in the world at that point. And so sales tax dropped tremendously and dramatically for the city. And so you can see that the blue line fell. The city took almost 10 years to recover the exact same sales tax dollar amount they received in 2007. It didn't occur until 2016. It's very difficult for the city to recover from 10 years worth of lost revenues from that sales tax and during that time. In 2016, the council knew that they were hitting a crossroad, and so they were looking for additional revenue sources. The finance director at the time knew that there was an opportunity for the council to impose an additional sales tax that may help us recover some of the funds that we continued to lose over that 9-year period of time. So they imposed the additional sales tax of 0.2%, and that comes directly to Murray from Murray sales. It's the only sales tax that comes right to us from Murray City sales. That helped us dip that blue line above the orange line and kept us there for a while until we knew that we needed to address the public safety issue, and then it fell again. So you can see where our 2019, that next to last, it kind of falls under the orange line. So what we're recommending is bringing the blue line above the orange line again with the property tax increase. Part of our challenge is that a lot of our city is actually considered tax exempt. So any property that's owned by the county, so Wheeler Farm or any county building, those kinds of things, any park or anything owned by the city, anything owned by the schools or school district, anything owned by Intermountain Healthcare are all off of the tax rolls as far as property tax goes. So that's quite a challenge for the city in that 60% of our city is contributing property tax. We've had no tax increase since 2006, and as such, we haven't been able to fill the inflationary gap. As many of you know, gas doesn't cost the same as it did in 2006, nor do groceries or property or anything else. Wages are not the same as 2006, and so we haven't been able to change anything, and we'll explain how property tax works here in just a moment. So we've asked you for a property tax, to request a property tax increase. Now the chart here on your right is the property taxes for all of the cities in Salt Lake County. And you'll see I circled Murray and put it in orange because that's our city color. And you can see we're on the lower half of the property tax rates for all the other cities as well. And we've also, the ones with the asterisks next to them, those are ones that are going through property tax increases this year as well. It seems that everyone's kind of ignored inflationary gap changes over time, and that this year almost all of us are needing to get back those revenues that we've lost over that 10 or 12-year period of time. We've had the question in other meetings about, well, is it time to turn public safety over to the county? In answer to that question, if we were to just turn over police to the county, you see the blue line above Murray, you would be paying that property tax, and only for police services, not for anything else, not for parks and recreation and streets and all of that. So we are really efficient in this city in providing you the full services that you receive by having a lower tax rate than just the county police department. The red line, a couple under our Murray orange, is just fire service for the county. So when you look at those top cities, the Harriman, the Mill Creek, and the Riverton, That's the tax rate if you were to have turned your public safety over to the county. It actually increases your tax rate tremendously. We believe that we provide you a quality public safety services with a low dollar amount. So what does this mean to you? What this means to you right now is $35.70 per year for every $100,000 of assessed property. So the average home in our community is about $300,000. So it would be about a $105 increase for an average home assessed at $300,000. What it means to the bottom line of your taxes is a 5 to 6% increase on the bottom line. So if you were to, excuse me, you're paying $1,000, it would mean that you would have a $60 increase overall. Where does your property tax dollar go? Many of you may not know this, but 57% of your property tax dollar, if you live in Murray School District, goes to the Murray School District. 23% of it goes to Salt Lake County. 13% of it comes to the city for the services you receive. 4% comes to other districts, and that's like the Mosquito Abatement District, Central Valley, Central Utah Water Conservancy District, those kinds of things. And 3% of it goes to the library. If you live in Granite School District, it's a little bit different. 60% of your property tax dollar goes to Granite, 19% to the county, 11% to the city, 7% to other districts, and 3% to the library. Many of you received your tax notices last couple weeks ago or a week ago maybe, and this is what it looked like. So this is a mock tax notice, and it's based on a $100,000 piece of property, just to show you kind of how to calculate that. As you see the red lines, that's the Murray City tax that we are requesting, and then the Murray City Library is also requesting an increase. You'll see that the increases for the city are 45% of the city's property tax, and the library is 55%. Again, though, it's important for you to realize that that is not 50% of your bottom line. That would be much more significant. There are no other districts that we know of that are going to going to tax increase, except for Central Utah Water Conservancy District. They are doing, I think, a 3% increase. So you should have just seen 3 lines increase on your property tax notice. Now there's a law, and this is what the question always comes up with property tax. Well, but my value keeps going up and my tax keeps going up at the same rate. Your taxes go up only if someone increases taxes and goes through this process. Now, most entities don't do neighborhood meetings. This is very unusual, and I'm very proud to say that Murray does this for transparency and to allow you to give more of a voice. However, most communities just do their public hearing which we will have on August 14th. But there's a law that's called Truth in Taxation, and what that means is that a city will only receive the exact same amount of dollars no matter what the values are. So let me explain that a little bit. So you can see, there it goes. Right here, this is last year, this is this year, and this is what we're proposing. So when I talk, that's kind of what we're going through. Last year, all of the property in the city was valued at $4.3 billion. Our tax rate was 0.001415, so 1/1000th of a percent. So we got about $6.2 million. This year, people's properties, your values went up, your assessed values went up because the market's moving up. So yours went to $4.8 billion. That's everyone, that's not individual, but that's like everybody's increase. So we increased 10% in your values. Our tax rate fell 8% because yours increased 10%, ours fell 8%, so that we get that same $6.2 million. Now you can see there's $100,000 about of difference between those two numbers, 6.173 and 6.273. That $100,000 is from new growth. So we get extra property tax if something builds brand new, not if something's just improved on, okay? So it would be the new EMI building, that will add to our property tax rolls, and I've already budgeted for that increase. But the law is that we only get the same dollars no matter what. So since 2006, we've been working off the exact same dollars that we've been working on in 2018. The proposed new tax rate is 0.001892, and that'll bring in about $9 million. So what does this mean to you? If your home was valued at $100,000 last year, your value would have increased about 8%. So you can see here, I increased the value from $100,000 to $107,000, okay? And that's we had an 8% drop in the tax rate and an 8% value increase. So there's a direct nexus. So whenever your value goes up, our tax rate goes down, okay? The law is also that you get a discount on your home of 45% of your assessed value. So you're assessed $100,000, but you only pay on about $55,000 of it. And then we apply the tax rate. So last year you paid $77.83 to the city, and this year you'll pay $77.30 to the city without the tax increase. That final column shows you that you would pay $112 instead of the $77 that you would have paid otherwise. Per month, that means $6.49, $6.44, and $9.34. So in essence, it's an increase of $2.90 for every $100,000 of property that you have per month. This is the notice that you saw in the newspaper or online. It will be noticed all over. It is saying what an average home is valued at $323,500 and what the taxes would be for a home and for a business under this increase. This notice includes the the library tax property increase as well as the city's tax increase. So you'll see that it's $135 a year for an average home and $246 a year for an average business because they don't get that discount, that 45% discount. Total increase to the city is 46.93% of property tax revenue. So when we went from $6 million to the $9 million, that's the difference. However, I want you to remember that that means 7.5% of your bottom line, not 50% of your total bill. All right, where does our money go? So once we get your money, what do we do with it? You can see here that our revenue budget, about 47% of every dollar that we spend comes from sales tax. That's significant. Best practice for governments is typically 33 to 35%. You'd like to have a kind of a three-legged stool where you have sales tax, property tax, and charges for services be equal so that if an economy changes, you're not tipping over. However, we are very dependent on sales tax and we will continue to be. This is with the tax increase. This is not before. 21% of our revenue will come from the property tax, 11% from charges of services, and 12% from other taxes, which is like from the hotels and Comcast and those telecom and those kinds of things. Where do we spend your dollar? 48% of every dollar goes to public safety. 12% goes to capital projects, which are roads and improvements throughout the city. 13% to parks and recreation, and 10% to public works. So you can see the significant amount of dollar goes directly to serving you. This is our budget last year. So 2018 budget means before June 30th of 2018. So I wanted to show you side by side what we've done. So I increased sales tax by $1.1 million this year. I believe that's probably where we're going to come in at, and it looks like what the projections are right on right now. And other revenues kind of gone down, but you can see that we are asking for $2.9 million of property tax. That's that 47% increase that you saw before. And it's going directly to public safety and the debt service for the fire station. So dollar for dollar, this entire tax increase is dedicated to public safety. Now, one of the other issues that we've had is the library. The library is solely dependent on property tax. They have no sales tax revenue. They're not supposed to be getting transfers from the general fund because your taxes are meant to provide the other services throughout your community. And so they only get property tax revenue. You can see again that their blue line has fallen well below their orange line, which is their expense. And they're struggling right now. How do they fill the gap? It's whenever you turn in your book slate. We thank you because that fills that gap. Okay? but we'd like to not be operating in that position. We also know that the library has struggled with space and room in their community, and they also are requiring some further investment in that building, and that it is also aging. So we are requesting, and the library board has requested the council to ask for a property tax increase because building improvements are required. We have no room for growth or changing services, and we would like to relocate the library to a location where the new city hall will be in 3 to 5 years. This increase would pay for the debt service on that library and build that new facility. Now, here's the bonus to your library. This is the best part, I think. One of the best things about Murray. If you did not participate in your own hometown library, you would be forced to participate in the Salt Lake County library system, which is a good system too, and you can use it with your library cards. Or the Salt Lake City library system. You would be in the county, but those are the 3 library systems throughout Salt Lake County. You'll see that the blue is your tax rate for your library. If you were a part of Salt Lake County and did not have your library, you would be paying the orange tax rate. And if you lived in Salt Lake City, you'd be paying the gray tax rate. So our library has been working off of about 30% of revenue of what a Salt Lake County library would normally work off of. And we believe that it's time to bring that library up to where they need to be so that they can have a building that will sustain the services that they're providing. Now, some of you might say, well, maybe we're not using the library anymore. Most people are reading books online or getting electronic media. That's true, but that electronic media costs money as well as books. So we continue to change and diversify the library services. I think many of you have seen many of the services that they're doing. I know they had a Princess Festival, and they had a canned food art, and they have all kinds of events going on, and hundreds of people show up for that on a regular basis. The library increase is $10.30 per year for every $100,000. So it is a very small impact. Now, we wanted this to be a public process, so this is the last of our neighborhood meetings, and we're thankful that you're here. We also initiated some auto calls to remind everyone about the neighborhood meetings in their area. We have a website that has questions and answers about any of this information or how to get your tax notices on our website under the finance department. We have this book, which is called The Citizen's Guide. Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Citizen's Guide to the Budget, which has many of the charts that I've shown you, but more information about your city's budget. And we'll be putting this out on a regular basis every year to give you information about your budget. It's also online, so if you're more apt to look at it online, you can do that too. We've provided public notices in the newspaper and the Utah Public Notice websites. And we will be having the final public hearing where we will vote on the tax rate on August 14th at 6:30 in the City Council chambers. So that's my presentation. I hope that it was informative and helped you understand why this recommendation has come. And we'll turn the rest of the time over to Brett and to you to answer questions.